This week, I'm pleased to welcome former A-League, MLS and New Zealand All-White Jeremy Brockie to the podcast. After bursting onto the scene with his flair for goals, a young Brockie signed with Bling FC in the A-League, where he played and learnt with the likes of Dwight Yorke and latterly Robbie Fowler. He then went on to play in the 2010 FIFA World Cup and win trophies in South Africa. Having the experience of playing in many different professional teams and in different leagues, Jeremy is well placed to enlighten us on the challenges it takes to first make it as a pro and then stay in the profession for over 15 years. Okay, let's go. Jeremy Brockie, great to see you again, mate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a while, eh?
Mate,
we finally caught each other.
Yeah, we have. It's been at least 25-ish years since we were, on opposing teams, mainly in Premier League, fighting it out for Golden Boot. Every time I seem to play against you, you would score some sort of worldie, top bins, outside the foot, one-on-one from halfway. And we're just chatting offline, and you just told me a story which is brilliant timing because, yes, you're still playing, so maybe fill in the audience of where you're at with that at the minute. But just regale the story you told me is quite funny.
Yeah, still running around up here in Townsville in the local league. It's something that I've always done and always known. So funny story on the weekend. I'm obviously getting older in age at the moment, and there's a lot of young players running around. In fact, at my club brothers at the moment, I could probably be some of the boys' dads. There's that bigger age gap, but 1-1 at half time. 5 minutes into the second half, one of the young boys snuck in front of me from the opposition and stole the ball from me, and I heard a comment in the background, "You're not getting that, old man." So I just put that away in the memory bank, and 20 minutes later, ball fell to me, and one of those trademark volleys banged it and into the top corner. And of course, I couldn't leave it there. So I sort of went over to him and said, "No, not bad for an old man, eh?" So the old man still got a little bit in his locker, but I'm just loving still running around, keeping fit, and passing on all that knowledge to the younger boys coming through.
Great to hear, mate, and no doubt in the next hour you'll pass on some more wisdom. But for those who have seen you play either in person or through TV screen, they'll probably, I certainly think of you as the guy who always scores the worldies, like out of nowhere. So I just want to kind of, before we go into your full story, think back to your youth days up in Nelson. Was it a specific coach? Was it just the environment, not being in a big city that, you were encouraged to bring flair to try things, or was it just more a natural ability that you think you had?
Yeah, I think when I look back on it, and I actually said this to someone the other day when we were just having a conversation, is that sort of street football or just mucking around in the backyard has sort of disappeared a little bit now. And I remember when I was growing up in Nelson, there was a group of 3 or 4 of us that every day after school, on the weekends, would put the ball bag on our back, a net for the goal, right down to the football park. And we used to always just play this game where one of us would stand in goal. The rest of us would stand sort of outside the 18-yard box. The goalkeeper would ping it out. First time volley was like worth 3 points. If you took a touch and volley, then it was like worth 1. So, and we would do that for hours every week. And I think if I look back now, that's probably where that technique of the wonder goals, as you say it, has come from. And I probably didn't work on as much as the little tap-ins because I've missed a few of them in my time too.
Yeah, well, that was my nickname, Tappet and Turnbull, but that was more about being in the right place at the right time, or understanding where the ball's going to be rather than being where it currently is. But like those little games, that's free, right? It doesn't cost any money. It's people investing time. It's being creative. If you've got some mates, great, or a support network to go down and work on your craft, try things out. It can turn into a career, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I sort of say that, obviously we'll speak about it more later and what I'm up to at the moment, but I've gone down that coaching route, and we put sessions on for the kids up here, but I say to them, you've got to do the stuff at home and in the backyard and get a couple of mates on the weekend just to have fun with the ball and try things as well. If you're only going to use the training sessions to develop as a player, then you probably end up getting left behind from the kids that are doing a little bit extra at home by themselves.
What about the coaches throughout those sort of more formative years, and even when you move down into Canterbury United, which is playing in the New Zealand National League, right? So high level senior competition with senior men. Were you encouraged to bring to life some of those X factor qualities? Did you feel it is now part of your, I guess, profile as a player, and that's kind of what you were asked to do, or was it, or were you sort of pushing against that, conformity to, conform to a team? Because this is a conversation I had recently about, trying to, if we're serious about developing a player for a national team or a player for the first team from 14, well, you're not going to bring the whole team through. You'd love to. There's no reason why you can't bring a big bunch through and a go. But if it's about developing a player or giving that player the best chance of making it to the top, um, what's going to separate them from the other right back or the other right backs that are coming through? Bringing to life their qualities versus trying to fit in a team. As a coach now, I'm just sort of, it's a bit of a ramble here, but as a coach, do you feel that coaches are too structured? Take that where you want, mate. That was just a
Yeah.
bit of a,
Yeah, I think so. And again, I look back probably on my own career when things were going really well. And I'm not saying I was just going off and doing my own thing, but the best coaches have always found that right balance of keeping that individual with the flair or the things, that willingness to try things, combined into the team sort of routine. If I look back, probably the Wellington Phoenix, I think my third year before I left the club, and Ernie Merritt came along, who, by the way, is a fantastic coach, fantastic leader, fantastic mentor, and we had some great conversations, but just his style of play didn't suit my game. The year before, scored plenty of goals, but then he sort of brought in a structure where he wanted me to play a certain way, certain style, make certain runs, and it just wasn't really bringing the best out of me as an individual. And then I have a little like that form slump, and when I look back over my whole career, that's probably where I've tried to adapt for the benefit of the team, which you have to give and take. But if you completely lose that own individual style of play within that team, then that's when things can start to go wrong for you. So it is hard finding that right balance. And probably the best coaches always manage to do that.
Mm. The move into professional football for you came at a very young age, right? 17 into the New Zealand Knights, which at that stage was, the pathway into professional football in New Zealand. Was there any conversations about why they signed you at that, certainly at that age? But was it because of your individual flair, your individual brilliance, your something a bit different from a marketing profile perspective? Young kid out of house and dreadlocks. Like there's a lot of different narratives that could have happened. Do you know kind of why the signing of you took place at that time?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of factors. One of them definitely benefited me. Like you say, I was one of a few sort of younger players playing in the New Zealand National League at that stage. So I remember getting the phone call, asked to go up and trial, and there had to be three New Zealand under 20 players in the squad for the Knights. So I went up there and trialed for a couple of sessions, couple of days. And I just went out there with that young, no fear factor. And I think I remember scoring a couple of my trademark volleys in training. And then I went back and away and just sort of hoped and waited for that phone call. And so, yeah, again, going back to going to that trial, being young and not really knowing what I was doing, I was just going out there and playing my game, where maybe the older you get, the more experience you get. Sometimes you overthink those situations. So I went up there with that no fear factor, and I think the dreadlocks probably helped as well. But no, definitely the fact we had to have three under 20 players in that team was a real bonus for me at that time, because I was one of the younger players coming through.
An early episode with Marco Rojas. We had a good conversation around the trial process, and similar sort of advice from him. It was like, just go and just, there's no point being tense and stressing about, oh, I have to make this trial work. It's because ultimately, you're less likely to perform or be natural. So just go and experience it, give your whole self, and then it will be what it will be, will be. Like some coaches will want you, some won't. It's around selection for national team. We just ran a series of trials here in our kind of pre-academy space, and just thinking about the dreadlocks, for example, like what is going to help you stand out from the rest if there's like a mass? So is it, one boot that's, I used to wear one red boot, one black boot as a striker, and my other
Yeah.
striker partner did the same when we were playing for Canterbury, just to so, some people hate that, and some will go, okay, I recognize this kid now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wore a bright orange sort of bandana, like headband, which I thought was quite cool because again, I can remember him out of these 300 kids, but I can't remember anybody else. So
Yeah.
yeah, anything else like that you can kind of give advice around, not necessarily trials, but yeah, helping stand out above the rest.
Yeah, that's funny because my boy, up until probably 6 months ago, had dreadlocks as well. So he came to me after seeing a photo when we were on an away trip once, and he goes, "Oh, Dad, I want them." And I was like, "Oh, we'll have to ask your mum, mate." Like, well, I can't really say no when I had them growing up as a kid, but yeah. So he went, grew his hair, and we were in the Christchurch International Cup last year with my academy, and the dreadlocks were, yeah, bouncing around, flowing, and he was having a really good tournament. And I remember people coming up to me going, "Oh, that kid out there with the dreadlocks side goes all right, eh?" So it is about making yourself stand out a little bit different compared to the others. And then funny story on top of that, we had our trials from my academy just after he shaved his dreads last year, and I saw this kid walking in from a distance, and I had the list of names, and I go, "Oh, everyone's sort of almost ticked off my list here. Like, who's this? Is he just turned up out of the ordinary?" And it got close. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's my son. I better better take his name off for arriving." So yeah, sometimes doing something a little bit different helps you stand out above the rest. Sometimes it can be a good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing as well, depending on how you trial.
Yeah, no, 100%. I guess let's just go back to New Zealand Knights. So now you're the one of the young ones, right? You're 17 in a senior environment that's, from a performance perspective, not performing. One win in that first season. That must have been a really enthralling, exciting time, but also how are you managing the negative, the challenge, obviously the senior pros, the whole environment sort of at the bottom of the table, but you're in there for your first experience. So there's a real give and take in that. Like, just take us back to that time. What are some things that you think back to that you would do maybe different, or things that really helped you? Yeah, from obviously there to the next part of your career.
Yeah, I think my situation of being a young guy surrounded by so many, because we had a lot of older heads there: Darren Bazley, Neil Emblem, Sean Devine, Danny Hay, Noah Hickey, a lot of experience there. And they'd probably been in those situations before where you're in an environment, you're in a team where results aren't going well. So you sort of take it to heart a lot more, or you're getting together as a group going, "What do we need to do to fix this?" Blah blah blah. And that's normally the senior players in an environment that are doing that. And for me, a younger player, I got told pretty much at the start of the season by John Ashstead is, "Look, you're here, you're young, learn. You're probably not going to play much this season, so just enjoy being your first year pro." And so I didn't really get caught up in too much of the results side of it that was coming along. And then by the time my opportunity came to play, the season was well and truly done and dusted, from trying to get into the finals point of view. And I remember John just saying to me, "Just go out there and enjoy yourself, mate." And I just went out there without a care in the world. I think I ended up scoring 4 goals in the last 5 games, including like one away at Melbourne Victory against one of the biggest and most intimidating atmospheres in the league, and 2 goals against Sydney FC, who obviously ended up winning it that year. And I was just going out there and enjoying myself, and um, enjoying being a pro. And that's probably where that non-fear factor, not overthinking things, comes from. Um, and yeah, that led to a lot more opportunities and moving forward.
Yeah, so the next opportunity was Sydney FC, right? So Bling FC, as it was called, kind of back in that era. As you said, just won the league. Big characters, Dwight York. Big move, right? Big move for any professional, let alone a young kid from New Zealand. So, just talk us through how that came about. Pull back the curtain a little bit around conversations, agents, contracts. How does it work for a young player where someone wants you? Like, I guess the concern for some players or parents or clubs or agents is,
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head there. So at that time, I think there was 8 teams in the league. I had offers from four of them, and I'd pretty much already agreed to go to Newcastle Jets. And it wasn't until probably the last minute, just after the grand final when Sydney FC had won it. I got a phone call from Sydney FC saying, "Oh, we want to offer you a contract." And I was like, "Oh, yes, best team in the league. They've just won it. Yeah, Dwight York, blah, like this is awesome. How cool!" And pretty much from that moment that I stepped inside the environment, I started going, "Oh no, what have I done here?" And that's one of my learnings now. But so yep, I've just gone to the biggest. I've ended the previous season really well. Scored some goals. There's been a lot of interest. Um, Newcastle were like the middle of the table team, which would have been probably now I look back would have been a perfect environment for me to carry on thriving and carry on in the upward direction. But the biggest clubs come along, got marquee players. I'm a Manchester United fan. Dwight York's there. How good's this? I'm probably going to go over there and win a league. And I was just thinking like all these things. I'm like, how can I say no to this? I remember in between that time, I went back to Canterbury United to finish off like the final series because again, there's a long stint um, in between A-League seasons. Broke my foot in the grand final with Canterbury United. So then I go to Sydney on my own, different country, living with a family still, like through family friends, which was probably a lifesaver. Injured, rocking up to preseason, and I can remember being there the first day of preseason. Oh, the coach that signed me had left, so Terry Butcher there didn't know anything about me. But turning up to preseason, first day, I remember being there, crutches, moon boot, and they went off on their warm up. And I heard just a couple of remarks. Oh, who does this guy think he is? Turning up injured and having to like missing preseason. And I was like, whoa, this is going to be tough. This is not like the environment where it was like real team, real close bonding in the New Zealand Knights. And I was always going to be up against it. Yes, had injuries along the way too. But I just never settled in that environment, which obviously led to less game time. When I did, I wasn't scoring. You're at a big club, you're expected to score when you're on there. So that came with the fans and all those types of comments from social media. And yeah, it was just a big downward spiral pretty quickly. So I've gone from probably being one of the most talked about players, young players coming through in the A-League to how can I get out of this situation, really?
So you went on and had a very great career for another 10, 12 years post that. So if you're sort of speaking now to that 18, 19-year-old that's just landed in Sydney, because the context for a lot of athletes, hopefully listening to this show, in whatever sport they're in, doesn't have a lot of them won't be football, is a big opportunity presents itself. Maybe at the right time, maybe you're a little bit too young. It's irrelevant. There's an opportunity there, and you choose to take it. Let's say you choose to take it. Like you could, even if you went to Newcastle Jets, right? Still a big opportunity, still a step forward, still leaving home. What sort of advice are you now giving to the 18, 19-year-old going into that dressing room in the same situation? You're in a mood boot. Maybe advice is don't go and have an off season. I don't know. Like, what's the advice you're giving your younger self or athletes in that similar space?
Yeah, I think it's all about probably having the right support network around you. And for majority of my career, I did. But I probably got caught up in the wrong things in Sydney as well. When I was there, I was injured, not playing. Probably got caught up in the wrong group. And started. I was living in Bondi, so started getting into the sort of partying scene a little bit as well, which obviously sent me contributed to the wrong direction. So it's about having a really good support network, probably not only within the sporting environment but outside as well, that you can rely on. And at the time I probably did. But I probably needed to reach out to them rather than waiting for someone to maybe check in on you to see how you're going. So I'd still say like go for the opportunity, but make sure you have a good, honest person around you to keep checking in on you, making sure. And those conversations are hard. If I will probably, if I check in on someone now and say, "Oh, hey mate, how you going? What are you up to?" I'll probably go good, but you just have to like dive a little bit deeper because you don't really know what people are going through at those times. And yeah, that's probably my biggest thing I'd probably look back on and make sure people are aware of.
Yeah, Archie and both Marco both said, look, if that opportunity presents itself, go take it because what's the worst? You can kind of come back to your starting point. So have no fear in that. The support piece is a good one. I just want to dig into that a little bit further. So um, the obvious ones are family members, spouses, boyfriend, girlfriends, siblings. But if you're in Sydney, your family's now in Nelson, so you can't just go and grab a coffee or a beer with them on an off day. So how does that look through your eyes through best practice? And then also, can someone on the well, I guess there's three parts to this. There's that close inner circle that may not be in the same city as you. There's the team, so the teammates, senior players, captain, coaching staff, and there's maybe a third circle around that, like an external person who is close to you, like maybe in Sydney, but not as part of Sydney FC. Like, where do you see the best balance of support coming from? Yeah, to help this stage, right? Which is tricky because you're a young player earning some good coin. There's some pressure of let's go and go hit up the nightclubs, and if you turn around and go, sorry, Dwight, I'm going to go have an early night here. That's a tricky situation, right? So yeah, just dig into the support network a little bit more around how you see that best working.
Yeah. I think when I was going through the tough time, I think my dad probably noticed. But like you say, those close network people are always going to be like putting an arm around you, cuddling you, and probably aren't going to dig that little bit deeper. And I remember I can't remember the name of the person, but he tried to organise me to catch up with someone in that sporting environment that deals with these types of situations. And my head was just like that far gone. I was like, no, I don't need any help. Like I'm not going and talking to someone about it. Um, so my old man obviously tried to help me. I would say if I look back in the best environments that I've been in since I've been in the pro game is the coach is a really big factor to be able to go and approach a coach, and that coach obviously um, help with potential issues. Whenever I've been struggling for form, if you've got a good relationship with the coach and are able to go and have that chat with them, and they're more just going to give you reassurances that keep working hard, keep training well, blah 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 blah. Sometimes that's enough, but I didn't have that type of relationship with Terry Butcher. He was pretty like hard nosed, straight down the line. So again, if you can't find someone within that environment, you need to look elsewhere. And that's probably just talking to those close family members to see if they have someone um, from a neutral point of view to give you some of those hard truths, but also balance putting an arm around you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's about decisions, right? You as the athlete, or you as the coach, or you as the whoever, deciding to go and seek that out, knowing that it's only going to help, or it can't do any worse, right? So I think, obviously Ted Lasso's been quite a popular show the last couple of years, and that's brought to life the role of the sports psych person. A couple of episodes ago, we had Don Batiste to specifically try and tease out some ideas where coaches, as much as athletes and parents, can go away and learn a little bit more around, the mental side of the game. But it's not just being mentally tough. It's about being brave. It's being confident. It's about finding help from a variety of different avenues that ultimately pour into you as the person and trying to move yourself forward in whatever journey that is. So I'm really I don't know. I don't think I'm really pleased. I don't have anything to be pleased about, but it's certainly that space has moved forward a lot in the last 10 to 15 years, right? Where, young athletes or even senior athletes can be more vulnerable and seek out that help, and that help is a little bit more readily available.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really good to have.
Um, the time at Sydney FC, came to, relatively abrupt end. Your contract wasn't renewed. That's got to be challenging. And again, this is something that trying to tie it back to athletes in this current context, it might be you're deselected from the national team or not selected, or your contract is not renewed. Um, you have a decision to make. Just take us back to that time. What are some of the either advice or learnings that you came out of that kind of negative or down part of your journey, and then how did you turn that into the next part of your journey?
Yep. So I signed it when I went to Sydney. I signed for 2 years. I left. We mutually terminated after the first year, which was really a weight off my shoulders, really. But it also came in a time where the Phoenix were coming into the A League. Ricky Herbert was obviously taking that role. He was the national team coach at the time as well, and I'd be getting a few phone calls like promising me a contract at the Wellington Phoenix. Just make sure if you can get out of your Sydney one, then there'll be a contract here at the Phoenix for you. So, well, yeah, grinded away to the end of the season. Um, the end of the season came. I think that led into the under 20 World Cup, which was like 2007 time. Sort of asking Ricky, where's my contract? Like, I've got out of my Sydney one. Oh, as soon as you get back from the World Cup, you'll have like the contract will be there for you. So I was like, all right, brilliant. Went away to the World Cup, and then at the end of the World Cup, I remember Stu Jacobs, who was the coach at the time, came in to the team. I think we were having our last team dinner, and they announced that Greg Draper and Jacob Spoonley had been given professional contracts with the Phoenix, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe mine's been lost in the mail. I don't know. But at that time, I didn't. Greg had a fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from Greg and Spoons because they had both had fantastic under 20 World Cups. But again, that was no another downward spiral for me because I expected to get something. I didn't, and pretty much I couldn't really do much because obviously Ricky was the national team coach as well. So just had to sort of bite my tongue, and I'm still young and hope I get another opportunity. And that's where Stu Jacobs and Jonathan Gould were massive, massive influences on turning my career around. I ended up going to Hawkes Bay with Goldie. He was the head coach. Still didn't find my feet there. I was obviously even more sort of down in the dumps after not getting another pro contract. So it was one of those ones where go back and still kept partying. Didn't really, like, I was enjoying playing football, but I didn't really probably push myself in training. And Gouldy was massive in terms of like, no, mate, like come here, we're meeting at this time. He's trying to get me fit because I was a little bit overweight. And then Gouldy was the assistant coach at the Olympics. Stu Jacobs was the head coach. We had a couple of Olympic training camps. And it was one of those ones where I went in with that mindset of, oh no, I've been a professional before. I'm easily gonna go to the Olympics. Like there's not many other pros playing around, so my spots get sort of guaranteed. And it was after one of the camps, and Stu and Goldie called me in and sat me down, and they said to me, look, if we had to pick the Olympic team today, you're not coming. And I was like, obviously the tears probably started to roll down my face a little bit, and I remember that moment. I went out of the meeting, called my dad, and said, "Oh, I've just been told that if the Olympics was made announced today, I wasn't gonna make it." And he's like, "Yeah, and like, what are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna like just sob to me here on the phone, or are you actually gonna like pretty much pull your finger out?" And from that moment, like the strength and conditioning trainer Andy Smith from the Olympics was like, "Nah, you're moving to Wellington. Leave Hawke's Bay. You're moving to Wellington. You're not going to play any club football. I'm going to get you fit, firing, so that when the Olympic team comes to be announced, like you're going to be in there. So I stayed at Ole Academy. There was a couple of us there on the grind every day. And that from that moment, that conversation with Stu Jacobs, and I still will like when we talk to each other and how we still talk about that conversation, just really turned my whole career around, really. Went away, scored at the Olympics, had a really good build up, which then led to getting another professional contract with the North Queensland Fury after that Olympic game. So if I didn't get that hard truth right there and then, and if I didn't do anything about it in a positive way, I probably would have been, I don't know, back in Nelson still playing for Nelson Suburbs and I don't know, weeding gardens or something.
Mate, thanks for sharing that. There's four or five things I just jotted down, which I think I'll pause on for a second. So firstly, the contract situation, you might feel like you promised something or you feel that you're going to get selected and it doesn't happen. That's a really clear reminder that things such as selections, whatever, are not in your control as an athlete. So whilst it can be disappointing and you feel like the world's against you, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it other than put yourself in the best situation. Then sometimes a coach doesn't like you. Sometimes your face doesn't fit. Sometimes you can't have dreadlocks in this team type thing. That's fine. But then you have a choice to make, and it's about choices. So choices is around mindset. So you mentioned your mindset at the time, but it's also for me linked to environment. So your environment at Hawkes Bay, and therefore your mindset at that time, and the choices you were choosing to make was not giving you the best opportunity to gain the next opportunity or the next selection, i.e. the Olympics. So then your decision to move to another place, i.e. Wellington, and be put into an environment where there's good support. Sometimes it's, more rigid, like we're doing this, it's not your choice. But again, you as the athlete making those decisions, making those hard choices, sometimes the unpopular choice. So going back to the nightclub and Dwight York and saying no as a young athlete, that's a choice you need to make. And going and having a night out isn't necessarily going to derail your career, but is it going to give yourself the best opportunity to perform in maybe the next training session, which gives you the next opportunity? All these things are ultimately whoever's listening and whoever's talking, your choice. Your choice to do A or B, to go into this environment or not go in this environment, to ask for support or not, and basically manage the things that actually are in your control, and selection and playing time and those things, unfortunately, are not in your control, right?
Yes, yeah, and that's where I'm lucky where like Goldie, Stu Jacobs, Andy Smith just had that all right, that mentality of no, we can see something, we believe in this guy. We just need to like give all of our energy to support him, get him back. Like I say, staying at Ole Academy, it's probably half an hour, 40 minutes outside of Wellington. So you're away from all those distractions of the nightclubs, the drinking, the mates. And that, yeah, ultimately, yeah, was a choice that I needed to make. Finally, a good decision, a good choice, and then I ended up reaping the rewards from it. And I am lucky because there's not many players these days that get an opportunity to do something that they love, to play professional sport. And I was lucky enough to be given a second opportunity. And once I got that second opportunity, there was no way I was going to let go of it from there.
Yeah, for sure. I think just to underline those things, it's that's ultimately the athlete's choice or decision to follow this path or not. But I think the parents or the support network can really help guide, I guess is probably a better way of thinking about it, the right environments. So I was having conversations with a couple of parents over the last couple of weeks about, where are you spending your time, let alone money and time away from other things to help your son ultimately, or daughter, achieve or get closer to the dreams that they want to fulfill. And environment, that's the level of coach, it's the type of training, it's the regularity of training, it's the conflict. That some clubs or TDs say you can't do this, but maybe that is the better environment for this part of your journey. So again, it's making those difficult choices and having that support network. I, for the most part, mum and dad for younger people, but as you get to the youth and around that 19, 20, that's you having to make those decisions, right? And I think that's for me, that's the biggest determinant of progression is environment. That's coaching, it's training, it's teammates, it's volume, it's rest. Yeah,
So,
so it's trying to seek out those environments. If you're liking the episode so far, it would mean the world to me if you could hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, 5 stars on Spotify, or follow on Apple Podcasts. Or if you'd like to, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the show notes below. Kind of maybe close off the playing career a little bit. We spoke in the bio around the big clubs, the big leagues, some of the trophies, but you've also had some really big managers, people that listen to the show will know. So Ricky Herbert, a previous guest, you're at Toronto FC with Ryan Nelson for a period of time. Even some big personalities of players. We spoke about Dwight York. You had Robbie Fowler when you're at North Queensland Fury. What are some of the positive traits? You can touch on the negative ones if you think that's important for coaches potentially listening to steer away from. Some of the traits that made these people successful in their own right, either as an athlete or as a coach.
yeah, I think I briefly touched on it just before, but all the coaches that I've enjoyed good relationships with, had success with, whether that's trophies or having a good season individually, they've been really good man managers, both as an individual, but then the team as a whole. So if I look at the national team under Ricky, he had a really good core group of players that under him obviously kept everything running smoothly. Everyone was close together. It helps when you go into a national team environment and everyone's excited to be there and you're representing your country. That's a bit of a no-brainer. But the best manager that I probably had, Stuart Baxter, who's had a very successful career as a coach. I played under him in South Africa, and he managed to bring a team together where you're still keeping that South African flair with some tactical guidance and instructions, and you bring that together, and then you start having the success on the field. And he is a manager, Stuart, that you could go to with anything, whether that's a football issue, non-football issue. He's always there, always willing to give time. So yeah, the man managing these days, in my opinion, is probably almost important or more important than the actual session that you're delivering on the field. Because if you have everyone feeling good, everyone wanting to be in that environment, that's when the success really starts to come. And I'll quickly touch on Ryan because you mentioned him as well, but that guy is amazing. The way he led us at the World Cup, and he still had that same sort of aura about him when he was in his short coaching stint at Toronto as well, where you just want to do anything for him. You run through a brick wall for him. He has that balance of fun and also seriousness, and I really really enjoyed my time there at Toronto. Unfortunately, it was only short lived, but yeah, being under his guidance again was a great opportunity.
Let's just sort of dig into the national team setup because we spoke about Ryan, we spoke about Ricky. So yeah, a decent career. Well, a fantastic career. Who am I? Who am I to speak? 50 caps for the All Whites. Went to the Olympic Games, Confederations Cup, and the FIFA World Cup in 2010 with in South Africa, as well as winning the Nations Cup in 2016. 50 caps, one goal. Just want to talk about this, right? So
I knew this was coming.
not to embarrass you or anything. It's as a fellow striker, it's certainly not to your pedigree.
Yeah.
You mentioned it in Sydney FC, right? You're there to score goals. That's ultimately your main function. There's lots of other roles that you do need to perform within a team. But what was that something that slowly built up and became something? Was it nothing until I just mentioned it then? I generally don't know. Like where
Yeah.
does managing pressure fit into this part of the conversation?
Yeah, it's really strange, eh? And I don't know myself how like that stat is so poor. Um, I mean, we most of my time in the national team, we were obviously blessed with some very good strikers, Chris Killen, Rory Fallon, Chris Wood was coming through, Smeltsy. Um, So yes, I definitely played a lot of games in that attacking role. Missed plenty of chances, and probably every game that I didn't score, and yeah, the pressure built a little bit more, a little bit more. But I still keep getting called into the national team. So I think it was probably not only what I could bring on the pitch, but it must have been something that I was bringing off the pitch as well to stay in that environment for so long. I will protect myself a little bit and say that I've played a lot of games in a defensive in a defensive sort of formation slash. I even started a couple of games at left back as well. I think I might have had one of my best games when I started left back against Australia in Adelaide. But it's funny because what sort of summed the whole situation up was when I had a really good season in the A League, and I was running close with Daniel McBreen for Golden Boot. So I've obviously been flying in the club environment, and then I went back to the national team, and we had Smeltsy, Rory, Killen, Woodsy all up front, and I'm playing like left wing back. So at the end of the day, I was just there to do a job for the team. Whether that was playing in a defensive position or getting a little stint off the bench. But no doubt it ate away at me, and obviously, and I thought my duck was finally about to be broken against Mexico at home in Wellington. I've learned pretty much whatever club I've been to now, and I haven't scored yet, and a penalty comes and I take it, I miss. I don't I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things. So I've learned from that mistake now. But when that goal finally went in against Uzbekistan, like obviously the weight was off the shoulder, and I was like, beautiful. I can finish my All Whites career now, knowing that I've got at least one goal. But yeah, there was a few, yeah, obviously a lot of range of factors, but yeah, it certainly doesn't look very well, and feel very good every time someone brings it up. Thanks for that. No, that's
Sorry,
fine.
mate. No, but as you said, there's a lot, right? Not all of those games you've started. Not all those games you've played in position. You've got equally talented, if not more senior players playing in front of you. You're playing for New Zealand against some bigger teams in the world, so it's not like we have dominant possession and territory and opportunities. But it still becomes a thing, right? And especially when it plays on your mind. And anybody who hasn't played as a striker doesn't feel the thirst and need for goals as much as what we would do, right? So you know as much as anybody else how you're tracking from a stats wise, and that need for the goal. But it's the concept of if you almost over try and you think about any sport or any activity where you want it so bad, you do too much, you put too much in, and ultimately your execution, or your physical quality or whatever, like you build it up in your mind and you play the game before the game's played, and you're flat
Yep.
for the experience. All of these things, right? So coming back to support network, coming back to asking for help, seeking out help, having external people give you more guidance. The beautiful thing you said is, you're still getting selected, so you're still, whilst yes, scoring a goal is probably the first thing I look at in terms of the role. There's so many other parts of it. It's bringing in my teammate. It's being a supportive teammate. It's tracking back and doing the defensive work. If you weren't doing those and it was just about I'm going to get this goal, and I'm not, well, then you probably weren't being selected. So yeah, it's trying to push that one part to the side, and almost let it come to you at times. I think is probably how I would approach the advice to athletes, or even coaches who are so desperate to get this opportunity. You can almost overdo it, right? You sell yourself too much, or you put across an ego or an energy that's just frowned upon.
Yeah, and I went through a similar stage at the Phoenix as well after that season where I finished the top goal scorer. I went to, well, second top goal scorer in the league, sorry. Went to Toronto for the stint, and then I came back, and then Ernie was there, and um, I just struggled to score goals. And I missed a couple of absolute howlers, like tap-ins, like over the top of the crossbar, and it was like, oh no, here we go again, sort of thing. And got to a stage where Ernie was like, okay, we're gonna put you on the bench, start like release a little bit of that pressure, and I actually it's funny because he put me on the bench, and in the change room while we were getting ready for the game, someone sent me a whole lot of clips of the goals that I'd scored from the year before, And I actually was watching that at, like in the change room while everyone's getting ready. And I think I remember a couple of the boys like coming up and giving me stick and like, oh, you're watching your goals, blah, blah, blah. And like that game, I came off the bench. I think it was against, might have been against Melbourne Victory. Can't remember. But I came off the bench and scored all of a sudden. And now I'm like, oh, beautiful, I'm back. And then from then on, like the goals just like came back and again. So it's about finding that like whatever it is to make you go, oh no, I can actually do this. Like this is what I've done before, and it's finding what makes you get that little bit of a buzz back, and watching, as silly as it sounds, watching myself do it and score goals, like contributed to helping me get back to exactly doing that.
Yep. Finding a way, finding your way, which should be different to my way, different to the next person's way, and not caring necessarily what, everyone else thinks. It's about finding a way through it at times. And it's that graft. Hey, you've got JB football on your hat, mate. Let's
Yep.
bring this into the storyline. So, whilst you're still playing and kicking around like against the young boys up in Townsville, you've started or you've moved yourself in towards a coaching space. So how are you finding that transition? What is the approach that you're taking? I'm assuming you've taken the good things that you've liked from all of your experiences over a great career and trying to bring them to life with today's youth in Townsville. Like, yeah, just maybe explain your idea, your philosophy, your methodology. Like, because coaches listening in, working with younger players or even parents now, maybe some of these things they can start to apply in the back garden or down the local park or with
Yeah,
their junior and youth teams.
yeah, it's funny, but from a very young age, when I first made it, or when I first got my professional contract, it was always one of those things where I was just telling myself when I finish playing, I want to give back to the game. I want to help kids potentially get opportunities to go as far as they can in the game, and it's something that just always stuck with me. And when we were living in South Africa, in the little compounds that we live in, I had a little couple of little programs going, and I'm like, oh yeah, I quite enjoy this. And I'm lucky enough now to be in a position where I am helping the next generation of kids come through. I'm still involved in the game, which is something that's really, really exciting for me. And I'm trying to give regional kids that opportunity to grow as footballers. And we don't get noticed as much up here sometimes, but there's plenty of talent in and around here in Townsville, and we've got a good coaching group as well that are all passionate about the game. And we're just trying to give kids more touches on the ball outside of their club environment. Um, they come to us twice a week, and we go away on these tournaments to come up against some very good teams. So these players are getting opportunities to see what the standards like outside of the smaller regions. But ultimately, yeah, we love what we're doing. And I try and take these learnings and stuff that we've been speaking about now and pass it on to these kids. So being there for the kids that maybe have had a bad day at school, or they're dealing with issues. It's not only about trying to develop the footballer, but the kid as a whole as well. And I think that's why we've been pretty successful so far, because we are it sounds a bit cliche, but we are a family environment where we're trying to just develop kids and let them do what they love doing. There's plenty of kids that play the game up here, and to be able to offer these opportunities is something that's really, really enjoyable.
Is there any kind of special approach that you guys have? You spoke a bit more touch on the ball and letting them play, and they obviously have their club training and games. It's not too dissimilar to, say, our pre-academy, where players will come in for one contact a week. Our approach would be here's some core fundamental technical competencies that you need to be competent in by the time you get to youth football. So striking the ball, receiving the ball, traveling with the ball, 1v1 attacking, 1v1 defending, proactive defending. And we do a lot of that stuff within small-sided games. So using the game or the play model as kind of the cornerstone, and then kind of bringing to life those within some sort of constraints. Is there anything that you guys do differently or add in, whether it's individualistic flair? Go back to the start of our conversation, like, yeah, what else are you
Yeah,
doing?
we try and stay pretty structured around the core skills and stuff that you've just mentioned. But yeah, we do every now and then have a bit of a street football type vibe where the kids just sort of rock up and put them into teams and we just let them play. Not too much coaching involved, and we're just standing there and encouraging them to try things. And because if you're not going to try things in the training session and find out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and those little strengths and weaknesses that you need to work on, then come game day back in your club environment, or when we go along to these tournaments, you sort of can go into your shell a little bit and be a little bit one-dimensional. So we try and find a bit of a balance between having just fun sessions, but also ultimately we're there to develop those key core skills that you've mentioned.
Nice one. And you mentioned your son a little bit earlier on. So, you don't want to gloss over the fact that you're a dad as well of junior athletes, but athletes that are starting their journey. What are some of the things that you're thinking about, not necessarily putting into practice, or maybe you are, but thinking about in terms of creating strong foundations to allow them to go on and have a successful career in whatever path they choose?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think I've got better at dealing with like coaching my own son. Obviously he's seen my career that I've had and he wants the same. But he doesn't know all the little things that we've spoken about today and what it takes to sort of get to the top. And I think probably earlier on, say you go back a year or so, because I'm obviously coaching him at club as well. I found I was probably using. I'm trying to let him chase his dream and be as good as he can be, but probably in a lot of the training sessions or games and that I was bringing out the dad voice rather than the coaching voice, and I've learned to deal with that now because whenever I'd use the dad voice, the one that he gets told off at home, and you like use that on a training pitch, you sort of get that look of why are you speaking to me like that? You don't speak to any of the other like kids like that, and I've learned to deal with that a little bit better, or I've sort of distanced myself when we go to tournaments and stuff like that. I'd rather get another coach to sort of step in and give him the sort of in-game moments that he needs to correct or whatever it is. But I do a lot of work with him here at home, and but I've never forced him to go out in the backyard or anything like that. I learned that early on as well. Again, when we were living in South Africa, he always wanted to go out and kick a ball. So and then it got to a stage where I was like, come on, buddy, let's go out and kick a ball. And we went out there and I could sort of tell he wasn't that interested. And maybe we did a couple of the little volleys and stuff that I was talking about earlier. And after maybe a minute, he's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm like, okay, no problem. Like, let's go. I've seen it a lot in my playing career, and now coming through being a coach and in that environment, but the parents are like forcing their kid to do this, do that, and ultimately, in the end of the day, the kid will turn around and give up on the game. So there's a real fine balance between being a parent, a dad, and supporting the kids and giving them the tools and options to want to be better.
Nice one. Jeremy, really appreciate your candidness, your advice so far. Yeah, so much we've covered. And it's great because you're also speaking through a lens of a dad as well, as much as an athlete, as much as a coach. So, yeah, lots of great insights. Let's close this off with rapid fire questions if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Let's
All
go.
right. I'm not sure if I'm ready, but we'll see. Go on, ask me a question that you want to know, and maybe the audience can think about how this would apply to them as well.
Okay. Well, I've mentioned it a couple of times. I'm still a very young coach in the coaching environment. So what advice can you give me as a coach that's been around a little bit longer to continue my journey in the right direction?
Yeah, cool. Great question. First thing that came to mind just then was you coach who's in front of you. So if you're working with 8-year-olds, they're very different to working with 18-year-olds. You can do the same session, but it needs to be, tailored. Some of the language, some of the coaching points, obviously the level of the player would be different. So yeah, coach who's in front of you. Is it your son who's in front of you in the back garden, or is it your son in front of you as part of a team? Again, who's in front of me now? It's kind of my first is where my head went. It's probably some advice I was given once. And the second part would be certainly for you in your space. I think just from listening to you, I think you're on a really great path where you're letting the kids play through games. You're letting them experience things without overcoaching. I think we have a tendency to overcoach at the minute, but there's also a risk where we don't do enough coaching or enough teaching, I should say. I think kids at a formative age need to be shown right behaviours that's outside of their sport, but also in their sport, and kind of held to a high-ish standard without being silly. I think allowing poor technique to develop at the expense of saying, oh, I'm letting them develop that or experience that themselves. Yes, that's admirable, but I think there's also chances that we can teach. But that balance between teaching and guided discovery and play and joy, again, just like you learning as a parent coach. I think it's a tricky one to get right, and I don't think we get right all the time. But having those things forefront in our mind, I think, give ourselves a great chance of helping move those players along.
Sweet, thank you.
No worries. Outline a concept or idea that either you came across as a player or trialing out as a coach that maybe we can try out in our environments.
Yeah, I think we've probably already spoken about it a little bit during the session, and that's like just surrounding yourself with good, honest people, the right people that want to help you get better, and those people that will give you a little bit of a kick up the arse when you need it, or put you in line, but the right guidance as well. That's probably something that I've learned from it, like we've spoken about in my career, but now that I'm trying to develop that in my academy as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Have you got a recommendation of a book, movie, TV series, or podcast that we can go and find?
I've read one recently, and it's actually been passed around our senior men's team. It's called Champion Teammate. So you might not be the best player on the team or the captain, but it's all about still being a leader and creating an environment that everyone wants to be a part of. So yeah, we're passing that around our team at the moment, and everyone's having a read so we can become a stronger group of players and not only rely on one or two players to be successful.
Yeah, brilliant. I might go check that out myself. What's one piece of advice that you were once given that you can share with us?
Um, probably just never give in. There was plenty of times where when I was younger, it does get a little bit hard. But are you willing to fight through those tough times, or do you just want to crumble and go off in a different direction? And I see it now when I'm coaching. There's a lot of kids that turn up and sort of kick stones around because they've had a bad day or they've had a bad game on the weekend and they think it's all over. But yeah, never giving in on that opportunity, that dream, because you might not be the most talented, if you want to use that word, or the best player in that environment at the moment. But that doesn't mean if you don't continue to work hard and you can't jump ahead of the pack a couple of years' time.
Yeah, choices, environments, decisions. If I gave you a magic wand, you can change anything you like. I'll leave this up to you, whether you want to think about playing pathways or youth coaching, because you're kind of in both. But if I gave you a magic wand, you could change something. What would it be that you change?
Oh, I'm gonna go. I'd like to see something introduced in sport where when the kids are playing on the weekend, whether that's football or any sport really, that the parents have to be silent on the sidelines. And it's something that I'm quite tough on in my own academy environment when we go away to tournaments and stuff like that. But the amount of times I hear parents just like yelling at their kids or the kids, the teammates, and that, trying to give them some direction, it just really does my head in. So if you could introduce some sort of silent Saturday or whatever you want to call it here, and just let the kids play and let the coaches coach, I think we might see a lot more kids develop a lot quicker.
That's cool, like a little dog collar that goes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Silent Saturday though. That's
Parents are right in the journey as well, but like the amount of times where you might have given little Johnny an instruction to every time you get it, we want you to to take players on 1v1 because that's something that he needs to work on. And then you've got parents after he loses it the first time yelling, no, pass the ball, pass the ball. And then like little Johnny's going, oh, my coach has told me to do this, but I can hear my mum and dad yelling at me. Like it just puts, I don't think sometimes they realize how much harm and it's actually doing the child at that moment.
No, for sure. Like I like the Silent Saturday. Like something like that is really cool. We just school holidays. You were in Christchurch. We were at a tournament here in Melbourne, and the some of the parents were crazy, but some of the junior coaches and the junior the team managers they're just above and beyond. And the best games were when Victory played City. Both sets of coaches literally said nothing. It was praise. It was like sub. It was well done. And like the parents of those two clubs said nothing as well. It's almost like you just need something to like create an environment, and this is how we do it, and then slowly things will change around. But yeah, some of the things you hear because at the end of the day, players or athletes they need a dad or a mum. They don't need the second coach because that's a real challenge point for young athletes, right? Where they want to do well for their coach, their team. They want to do well for mum or dad as well. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. It's a great one to bring up though. Silent Saturday. When I
Yeah.
think about how
Do you reckon we can get that to stick?
yeah, maybe we'll try something for sure. Um, Jeremy, what is the thing that you are striving for at the moment?
Probably to make football better in the regions. I think we touched on it a little bit maybe before the conversation, but it's really hard for us up here in Townsville, especially, and there's plenty of other regions as well to get really good quality football because we're so limited with our player pool and stuff like that. And so yeah, just working hard to give opportunities to regional players. Yes, we're always taking them to tournaments and giving them these games against different opposition and to see where they are, sort of sit on the spectrum of all the other players around the country. And it would be nice for some of the bigger city clubs, academies, teams to come to a regional city and support us as well by bringing some teams for some quality opposition. It's something that I've got in the pipeline at the moment. There's nothing up here in Townsville. So watch this space for next July. We're hoping to get our own tournament here up in Townsville. It will be good to it's good to have some opposition come up and travel for once. We do have a good little hiding spot up here in Townsville. We've got Magnetic Island just across the ditch as well. There's plenty to see, plenty to do, and we've got some good facilities too. So hopefully we can get some support there from around the country and a couple of New Zealand clubs too.
Yeah, cool. I've never been Townsville, so July 2026, mark it in the calendar.
Yeah.
On Victory Pre-Academy coming your way, mate. Be good.
Wait.
Nice one. Lastly, leave us with a quote for the week.
It's from Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. So I can reflect that into my own playing career and now into the coaching. So yeah.
Nice one, mate. Hey, great conversation. Great to hear you still banging in worldies. Puts me to shame. I still miss the thrill of scoring a tap in, let alone a worldie. I don't see many worldies, but yeah, the joy of scoring a goal. You never seem to lose that. But yeah, really pleased to see you also giving back to the youth. You had a fantastic playing career. Lots of great environments. Lots of struggles and challenges that your learnings not only are you giving to your kids, but we've talked about a lot of that here today. So thank you for your honesty and sharing the words of advice.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really enjoyable, and see you next July.
Thanks so much for sticking through to the end of this episode. It would mean the world to us if you could hit the like or share button so we can get these amazing insights out to other like-minded coaches, athletes and parents. Cheers.